In the 13th century BC, the world was dominated by two superpowers. In the south, the mighty Egyptian Empire, a civilization already thousands of years old, ruled by a man who was considered a living god on earth. In the north, the powerful and technologically advanced Hittite Empire, masters of iron and strategy. For generations, these two titans had eyed each other with suspicion, their empires expanding until they were on a collision course. At stake was control of the known world, and the flashpoint for their conflict was a single strategic city, Kadesh. In the year 1274 BC, the young, ambitious pharaoh of Egypt, Ramesses II, would march his army north to reclaim this city. The Hittite king, Muwatalli II, would march his own forces south to defend it. What followed was a battle of such epic scale, involving over 50,000 soldiers and 5,000 war chariots, that its story would be carved into the walls of temples for eternity. It was the largest chariot battle ever fought, a clash of empires that would be decided not just by brute force, but by a brilliant act of deception. Welcome to the Histofy. Today, we unravel the story of the Battle of Kadesh. Pharaoh Ramesses II was young, confident, and burning with ambition. He ascended to the throne determined to restore the glory of Egypt and reclaim the territories in Syria that had been lost to the Hittites. For his first major campaign, he assembled a colossal army of over 20,000 infantry and 2,000 of the famed Egyptian war chariots. He divided his forces into 4 great divisions, each named after one of Egypt's primary gods. The division of Amun, which he led personally, followed by the divisions of Ra, Ptah, and Set. The month-long march from Egypt to Kadesh was a monumental feat of logistics, a testament to the power and organization of the Egyptian Empire. As Ramesses and his lead division, Amun, approached the city, they were filled with confidence. Their scouts had reported no sign of the main Hittite army. It was then that the first piece of the Hittite trap was laid. 2 Bedouin nomads were brought before the pharaoh. They claimed to be deserters from the Hittite army, and they had a story to tell. They swore to Ramesses that the Hittite king Muwatalli was terrified of the approaching Egyptian force. They claimed the Hittite army was weak and was camped almost 100 miles to the north near Aleppo. Ramesses, young and eager to seize what he thought was a golden opportunity, believed them. He saw a chance to capture Kadesh easily and then marched north to surprise and destroy the Hittite army. Made a critical, almost fatal, military blunder. Broke protocol and ordered his own Amun division to race ahead, crossing the Orontes River and setting up camp just northwest of Kadesh, leaving the other 3 divisions dangerously spread out in hours, if not days, behind him. He was confident, arrogant, and marching headlong into one of the greatest ambushes in military history. As the Amun division began to set up their fortified camp, Egyptian scouts brought in 2 new captives. These were not actors, they were real Hittite scouts. Under torture, they revealed the horrifying truth. The 2 Bedouin nomads had been a lie. The entire Hittite army was not 100 miles away in Aleppo. It was hidden right now, just on the other side of the city of Kadesh. Over 40,000 soldiers and a force of 2,500 of the fearsome, heavy Hittite war chariots were waiting in silence. Ramesses had not marched towards an easy victory. He had walked into the jaws of a lion. Before the pharaoh could even send word to his other divisions, the trap was sprung. The Hittite king Muwatalli unleashed his chariot force. They stormed out from behind the city, forded the river, and crashed with devastating force into the flank of the 2nd Egyptian division, the Ra division, which was still on the march and completely unprepared for an attack. The light Egyptian chariots were no match for the heavier 3-man Hittite chariots, which acted as mobile fighting platforms. The Ra division shattered almost instantly. Terrified survivors fled in panic, streaming directly towards Ramesses' own camp. With the Hittite chariot force in hot pursuit, chaos erupted. The Hittites smashed through the camp's unfinished defenses, their chariots overturning tents and cutting down the panicked Egyptian soldiers. The Amun division, caught completely by surprise, began to collapse. Ramesses' own royal guard was overrun. The pharaoh, the living god, the great conqueror, was now surrounded. Cut off from the rest of his army and facing certain death or capture, it was in this moment of absolute desperation that the legend of Ramesses the Great was forged. According to the epic poem he later commissioned to be carved on temple walls across Egypt, the pharaoh was abandoned by his men. Alone and surrounded, he prayed to his divine father, the god Amen. Filled with godlike strength, Ramesses single-handedly mounted his chariot, Victory in Thebes, and charged into the heart of the Hittite chariot force not once, 6 separate times, cutting down his enemies like reeds and holding off the entire enemy army by himself. While the story of a single man defeating thousands of chariots is undoubtedly a work of propaganda, Ramesses did survive. The real turning point of the battle was less divine and more a matter of pure luck and timing. As the Hittite charioteers were busy looting the Egyptian camp, confident in their victory, a separate and unexpected Egyptian force arrived on the battlefield. These were the Nerin, a division of elite troops who had been marching separately up the coast and had turned inland. They arrived completely by surprise and crashed into the rear of the no disorganized Hittite attackers. This sudden attack from a new direction threw the Hittites into confusion. They were forced to abandon their looting and fight their way back towards the safety of Kadesh. This gave Ramesses and the remnants of his Ammon division the breathing room they needed to regroup. Soon, his 3rd division, Ptah, began to arrive on the scene, and the immediate crisis was over. The following day, the battle resumed. But the element of surprise was gone. The 2 massive, now fully arrayed armies clashed in a brutalist head-on fight that lasted for hours, but resulted in a bloody stalemate. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage. The Hittites were too strong to be dislodged from the city, and the Egyptians were too numerous to be destroyed. Realizing he could not take Kadesh, Ramesses declared victory and began the long march home to Egypt. So who actually won the Battle of Kadesh? Militarily, it was a draw at best, and arguably a strategic victory for the Hittites. They had successfully defended Kadesh, and the Egyptians had failed to take their primary objective. But Ramesses II was playing a different game. Returned to Egypt not as a general who had been tricked and almost defeated, but as a divine hero who had single-handedly saved his army and achieved a monumental triumph against impossible odds. He covered the walls of the great temples at Karnak, Luxor, Abu Simbel, and more with colossal reliefs and inscriptions detailing his personal, godlike heroism. He depicted himself as a giant, single-handedly scattering the tiny Hittite soldiers before him. His epic poem became the official history of the battle, a masterpiece of political propaganda that cemented his image as Ramesses the Great, the mighty warrior pharaoh, for the next 3,000 years. What makes the Battle of Kadesh truly unique is not just its scale, but its aftermath. Years later, with both empires exhausted by the long war, the Egyptians and Hittites signed the world's first known international peace treaty, a remarkable document that promised mutual defense and brotherhood. A copy of this ancient treaty is now displayed at the headquarters of the United Nations in New York, a testament to the enduring human desire for peace. The battle, therefore, is a story of contrasts. It was a tactical failure for Ramesses, but a propaganda masterpiece. It was a brutal clash of empires that ultimately led to the world's first great peace. And it is a powerful reminder that history is not always written by the victors on the battlefield, but by those who have the power to tell the story. At the Histofy, we don't just tell stories, we dig into them. If you love exploring the epic battles and legendary figures of the ancient world, subscribe. More deep dives are coming. This was the Histofy. I'll see you in the next one.